Okay, in this third chapter on our acceleration DVD, we're going to talk about resistance and strength. And one of the first exercises we can do is just push another player down the ice. We're going to do this from two different aspects. The first, we're going to go slow, strong, and deliberate. It will look like this. The second way to work on this resistance down the ice is with quick feet. Want the player to think of a sewing machine needle going up and down. Legs have to move real fast, and it would look like this. Another way to work on this resistance training is to push a player with their back facing you. Would look like this. Now we're going to take a look at a whole series of exercises, a progression of pulling and resistance training. And we're changing the resistance from the player behind. Here we're going into a one knee position while the player in front pulls. Looks like this. Our next exercise in the resistance progression is for the player from behind to go down on both knees. Looks like this. The next exercise in our progression to add more resistance is to now have a player sitting on the ice and pull them down the ice. It would look like this. Now, for one of the greatest amounts of resistance, we can do this exercise while pulling a player laying down, and would look like this. Now we're taking a look at resistance training with a coach or a player behind the other person who can vary the resistance themselves. So the first time we're going down in a snowplow stop, and then I can control putting greater or less resistance on. Would look like this. The second way for a coach or a player to provide resistance from behind is with a 2-foot hockey stop. Here again, you can dig in a little bit more, varying the resistance. Would look like this. This next exercise in our resistance progression is to ski behind the player. It's one thing to provide resistance at a constant rate, but now by skiing behind the player, we're going to be making a tight turn, and that will cause a pull from one side of the player and pull the player slightly back or off to the side. the player has to fight through that pull. Just like in hockey, we get bumped, we get tugged here and there, and it will look like this. Our last exercise in this resistance progression is ski jumping. Now here, as the player jumps from side to side, they'll provide a little greater pull than before, and also it's going to be a lot of fun for the player behind because they get to jump side to side. So it looks like this. Our next resistance exercise is for crossover starting and would look like this. Now, a great resistance exercise to strengthen and work on this crossover start is to push a player down the ice sideways. So we lock up with the stick here. Want to make sure that the stick's across the player and the player provides a lot of resistance, keeping the body sideways. We're pushing every step, hop into that. Where are you going? Shit, where are you going? I keep falling over here. Here's a great exercise for foot quickness and also leg strength. First, we're going to be stopping against ourselves, so we're working ourselves. As hard as we stop, as quick as we start, we're burning the leg instead of sliding and stopping. And then we're going to take a crossover step with the outside foot for foot quickness. Another good resistance exercise for starting quickness would look like this. Another exercise that we can do for resistance and leg strength is to take a slide board push sideways down the ice. We're going to put a burn in here on the thigh and the glute. We're going to also work against our own leg that's providing the resistance. So it will look like this. Okay, we're going with the V-start first. Here we go. Good job. Slide down. Oh, yeah. Want some help? Good. It's a little slippery. Try it again. Great. Okay, crossover starts. Open that hip up. Whoa. Open your hip up, boys. That's it, nice ups. Oh, he's got it down. Another great training tool is the Total Hockey Ramp, used exclusively at the Total Hockey Training Centers worldwide. Here, players practice quick starts up the ramp through laser gates with a stop clock directly in front of them, so that they can instantly check how fast they went. This time can be compared to other players worldwide and other players at different age levels. For example, a player could go up the ramp, say, in 3.5 seconds. Then they would tell you that that's a time for a peewee player. If the player goes up in 3 seconds, that could be a time for a midget player. If the player goes up the ramp in 2.5 seconds, that would be the speed for a professional player. This ramp and the Total Hockey Training Centers are one of the best places in the world for dryland skill development. Another great exercise that's a lot of fun, it's a hard workout, is tire wrestling. Another great exercise that comes from Wendy Marco. Here players are learning to get their feet open in this position for starting, and they're pushing real hard. Let's see what it looks like here. Go. This last technique in our chapter on resistance is Russian knee-ups. We saw this before when we were talking about striding and stride resistance. This also works for starting because we're talking about training the hip flexor muscle here. Very important in starting. So the player's going to drop down on one knee and they're going to go up and down, up and down, up and down. Players can do sets of 20 like this, up, down, and they can get faster. Okay, and then we'll do this moving down the ice. We'll do it slowly. We'll give you another pass of it fast. Looks like this. Players drop down to one knee, and it's up, down. Another way to work on these Russian knee-ups is to do it with one foot on the puck. And here's Dimitri to show us how this is done. So putting one foot on the puck, we're going to reach back, stretch and strain that hip flexor muscle and pull it up. We're taking a look at the leg harness now for starting. All of the previous exercise that we did under resistance could be done with the leg harness added for further resistance. We're going to take a couple shots here with the leg harness showing some starts. That way we get resistance in the start. And then we'll show one exercise where we're pushing a player. We're talking about a side start. Or a V start, front start. And pushing another player.